good morning, Merced. Right on. Thank you all for coming. Hopefully, I think we're going to show a very fun day and a very day of innovation and creative thinking. I know most of you out in this room, and you love this community, as I do. And it's important that we start thinking in different ways to make this a prosperous community. If we just sit and have everybody sit and wait for something to happen from the federal level or the state level, it's not going to happen. And if that's the case, what can we do to be able to show people with their gifts that they can create businesses, not only that can become sustainable and profitable, but also help our community? And I think that's what we all want. And so we're going to have that discussion as we go through. We're very lucky today to have 3 people who are very nationally recognized in social enterprise. And I'll read your bios in a minute, and it's also in your hand. But this journey for us in starting this, and this is going to be one of many workshops as we start putting this together, started about a year ago with Steve Russos and I going to the International Social Enterprise Conference in San Francisco. We were absolutely blown away with how far Scotland and Europe and Canada have done in terms of what we have done here in the United States. Absolutely amazing. And we said, why can't we be doing this in the Valley? And I think that's what we want to be able to share with you as we go through this. And so what we thought we would do is bring these people together who just came back from the national conference and share with what they have in terms of the current thinking, and also some of the models that are working right now to start creatively starting to plant that seed in all of us of how we can do that and implement that here in our community. And this is interactive. We want you to be able to ask questions, and we'll be able to honor that, I think, all the way through. Just to kind of get a feel for the audience, if you just raise your hand, how many people here from the for-profit sector? Just raise your hand. Okay. How many people from the non-profit sector? Which is good. It shows you that's what we want to talk about, is that blend between the profits and the not-for-profits as we go through that. How many are here for both? Okay, I'll give you that. Okay, fine. We're there. So, thank you all for coming, and that at least gives us a blend of what the mix is in this audience as we go through this. Let me go through a little and tell you a little about each of the people that we brought through and honored to have with us here today. Stephen Bosserman, and Stephen, where there you are. If you stand up real quick so everybody at least sees who you are. This is Stephen Bosserman. Please give him a hand. In 1986, Steve founded Bosserman Associates, a management consulting firm specializing in strategic framing and organizational design. His primary focus is in sustainable local economic development through strategies that complement emerging trends in the markets, technologies, and patterns of work. Actually, strategies include a healthy and sustainable community. And I know many of you are working on that. So, I see Cindy out there and Jean working in agriculture, which is a huge resource in Jim for us. Why aren't we doing better in terms of integrating that into this community? I would be remiss if not to introduce, is Linda here, Steve?
Yes.
Actually, the real power behind Steve is Linda. This is Linda's wife. Stand up, please. Come on, this is Linda's wife. And for many of us guys, we know the real power is really our sidekick. So, I'm going to do that. Priscilla Mendenhall. Priscilla, if you stand up, please. Priscilla is a lifelong social entrepreneur. Actually came out of Washington, D.C. In the nonprofit sector, partnering with refugees, immigrants, and service providers to improve minority health access. She is a very strong program developer, administrator, curriculum developer, trainer, researcher. She has a very particular interest in fostering and facilitating small group work around challenging issues. And I think we all deal with challenging issues in our day-to-day process. Since January, Priscilla's been partnering with the Latina and refugee women of Tucson, Arizona, to incubate a cooperatively managed restaurant, which provides culinary classes, soft skill sets, family planning, life planning, high-touch case management. It's called Crossing Kitchens. And things that if we think about and implement, we could probably do here too, because those are the same types of demographic and population she's dealing with that we also do. And she actually works in a semi-sheltered workplace and is a very strong presence in the Tucson food scene. And I'm excited to be able to see her. I met Priscilla actually a year ago at the International Conference, so she's very well formed in terms of social enterprise. And last is James Vander. James, where are you? Stand up, right? Gotta have your stand. Very strong social entrepreneur whose roots are both in the corporate and in the nonprofit sector. He was a business executive for many years and gained extensive experience in human resources, strategic alliance, acquisitions for food processing, and information technology firms operating both in the U.S. and in Asia. While Vice President of Human Resources for Butterball Farms in Grand Rapids, Michigan, James was involved in creating the first employer resource network, which was an innovative corporate-sponsored workforce development and supportive initiative. Building on the success of this project, he founded the West Michigan team in 2007, and their mission was to adapt and replicate the ERN model, which you'll hear more of, regionally. In 2010, James was approached by Ford Foundation to scale the ERN nationally, and with this support, he founded Disruptive Innovations for Social Change, DISC, D-I-S-C, as a Michigan L3C. For all of us in the nonprofit world, where we're all used to the 501c3, they're now starting to look at other types of innovations in terms of structure for nonprofit profits as a hybrid. So you may want to ask James those questions later on. Currently, they're launching the discovery phase of the ERN projects in Milwaukee, Chicago, Vermont, Delaware, Merced, and Tucson. We're actually going to get some activity going immediately, so I'm excited about that as we start putting this together. So these are our three wonderful experts. I want you to share time with them even on the breaks, and I also encourage you, when we do have breaks, when you sit down, find another table with people you haven't met. I think the whole idea, I think we've all talked about, it is about relationships. How do we create those new relationships and the kindred souls that are here so we can all work together? So with that, I would like to at least bring up the first panel, and I'm going to have David Spaur actually moderate that. And these are the people that just came back from the Social Enterprise Conference that we just had to be able to share with you as many of the questions and some of the innovative thinkings and current thinkings on social enterprise. So David and James, Priscilla, and Monica.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Dave Spaur, President of the Economic Development Corporation. It's good to see many of you here. We've been very curious about how can we be more successful? Are we doing something wrong? Or are we just not doing the right things? And it's not about doing the wrong things. It's about finding out what is right and how to do it. So I'd like to thank Monica and Steve and Flip and Bob for going out and searching social enterprise. And I think it really started with a sparkle on Main Street where Flip said there's too many vacancies here. What can we do to put people back to work? What can we do to spur jobs, job placement, and success? And they asked me and I said, I don't know, Flip. I mean, we've been doing economic development and social programs and nonprofits for a long time. We can keep sharpening the pencil and sharpening the saw. And he says, well, I think there's more that we can do. So Steve put together a grant and started working on this project, and we've come up with the idea that we're not experts and we don't need to be experts. What we need to do is have learning groups come together. And so that's what we're doing today is we've invited you all here, and we're very thankful that you're here so we can share experiences and learn from these experiences. But as a collective group, figure out what we really want to focus on. What's the first priority? What's the second priority? And how do we get it done? And how do we help one another do it instead of competing or having competing interests always fight for very, very scarce resources? So this morning, instead of me talking, I have three questions. for each one of our panelists, and they're going to take turns going through these 3 questions. And the first is obviously the what is social enterprise? But we want to hear it from their perspective because each one of them may have a different perspective on social enterprise. I've looked at Wikipedia, I've looked up social enterprise, and I've tried to school myself. I've got to admit I'm still a little bit lost about what social enterprise is exactly. There's this idea, well, it's not nonprofit, but yeah, sometimes it is. Sometimes it's a corporation for low profit, and sometimes it's just for profit. But without the board of directors that are looking for dividends and returns, it has a social priority. So we can start with you, Monica.
So when we went last week to the Social Enterprise Alliance Summit in Chicago, the first thing that they have is they're defining things. It's where mission meets the marketplace. And I think what the social enterprise is actually an open question and something that the field is defining itself. But one of the most interesting definitions I've heard is when you apply a business method to solving a social problem or reaching a social mission or end. And so what was really interesting to observe is that anyone can kind of come and play in the social enterprise field. You can be a nonprofit and decide to have an earned income stream by basically setting up a small business. You can come from a for-profit and decide that you want to figure out a way to sort of build value or make profit from solving a social problem. You can be a hybrid of the two. There's also some very interesting private-public partnerships that are defined as social enterprises. So it's an open field, and I think what's exciting about today's conversation is to kind of look at what that term means and what that is.
Thank you. From the for-profit perspective, or at least my for-profit perspective, social enterprise is an opportunity to look at convergent interests between what we in the private sector are looking for and what's happening in the community with nonprofits and government. Oftentimes you have, many of you have heard of corporate social responsibility. Companies, for-profit companies, are charged to maximize the shareholder interest of the of their stakeholders. So corporate social responsibility will only take somebody who really is looking at a social mission very far. So I think social enterprise from a for-profit perspective gives somebody who really wants to do good in the community a different vehicle or a different way of accomplishing that. So again, not taking away from the profit-driven aspect of the business, but really looking at, as Monica said, where the mission is really important. How do you leverage that? So where we've seen social enterprises pop up from the for-profit perspective, oftentimes people have looked at leaving their for-profit jobs or companies and then starting social enterprises because they really have a passion for something within the community, but they still have that business motivation and that mindset of using those processes to create change and to create value.
I'm not very good at a microphone, so tell me if, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. From my perspective, coming out of the nonprofit environment, which I left because I got frustrated with it, because my nonprofit was not entrepreneurial enough.
No wonder, Priscilla.
But from my perspective, for nonprofit, social enterprise is about realizing the assets that you have as an organization and using business principles to turn those assets into a revenue stream that allows you to keep accomplishing the social mission that you have as the core of your being, your organizational being. And I have seen, and I will give examples of organizations that have done that. It's a very effective mechanism. A lot of nonprofits get worried about the unrelated business income and having to pay taxes on it. There are very creative ways around that. And if you design a social enterprise for a nonprofit that generates income that's basically related to your mission, you don't even have to worry about it. But we can get to that later.